Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. The Washington Commanders have made yet another move in their ongoing effort to patch up a roster that has been hit hard by injuries. Earlier this week, the team officially announced the signing of veteran cornerback Antonio Hamilton Sr., a player who has been around the league for nearly a decade and has built a reputation as a gritty journeyman who always finds his way back onto the field. Hamilton is set to join the Commanders' 53-man roster immediately, making him eligible for the team's crucial Week 5 matchup against the Los Angeles Chargers. In order to make room for Hamilton, the Commanders were forced to place second-year defensive end Javonte Jean-Baptiste on injured reserve, after the young defender tore his pectoral muscle in the hard-fought battle against the Atlanta Falcons in Week 4. It was a heartbreaking loss for Jean-Baptiste, who had been flashing potential in limited snaps, but such is the cruel reality of the NFL, where injuries reshape rosters as much as coaching decisions or trades. For Washington, this signing represents more than just plugging a hole. The Commanders are in a moment where depth and reliability mean everything, and Antonio Hamilton brings exactly that. This is a player who wasn't supposed to have much of a career in the first place. Coming out of college back in 2016, Hamilton wasn't drafted, wasn't hyped, and wasn't pegged as someone who would still be standing in the league nearly 10 years later. Yet here he is, preparing for another shot, another opportunity to prove himself, another chance to show why teams continue to call his number when injuries start piling up. His story is one of perseverance and constant reinvention, and for Washington, that type of mentality is exactly what you want in a locker room that has been tested by adversity. Hamilton's career began with the Oakland Raiders, back when the franchise was still in California and still in the process of reinventing itself. He spent 2 seasons with the Raiders, carving out a niche for himself on special teams and earning respect as a dependable depth cornerback. From there, he moved on to the New York Giants, spending another 2 years in New York where he continued to grow into the role of a veteran presence. In 2020, he had a short stint with the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that was still riding the momentum of Patrick Mahomes' rapid rise. Although his time in Kansas City was brief, it gave him yet another perspective on how championship-level organizations operate. Then came a challenging stretch in his career. Hamilton signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who had just hoisted the Lombardi Trophy. It looked like he might have a chance to stick with a roster loaded with talent, but he was cut before the season even began. For many players, moments like that signal the end. You fall out of the league, you struggle to find work, and suddenly the dream fades away. But Hamilton isn't wired that way. Instead of folding, he quickly found a new home with the Arizona Cardinals, where he played from 2021 through 2023. Arizona gave him stability, gave him snaps, and gave him a platform to showcase his professionalism and football IQ. Last year, he was with the Atlanta Falcons, appearing in 11 games and contributing heavily on special teams. Even when he wasn't locking down starting reps at corner, Hamilton always found a way to make himself valuable. Interestingly enough, this isn't Hamilton's first interaction with the Washington Commanders. Back in August, during the thick of preseason roster battles, he was part of Washington's practice squad. At that time, the Commanders had to make some tough cuts and Hamilton was among those who didn't make the final 53-man roster. For weeks, he was on the outside looking in and signed, waiting for the next opportunity. And now, because of Washington's injury woes, the door has swung open again. It's almost poetic. A player who was just here a couple of months ago, quietly grinding, now brought back into the fold when the team needs him most. But the real question that fans are asking is this: what role will Antonio Hamilton actually play on the field? The Commanders already have a cornerback room that features Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Sainristil, Noah Igbeneghin, and rookie Trey Amos. Those players are expected to see the majority of the snaps in coverage, especially with Lattimore anchoring the unit as the most proven of the bunch. Hamilton, at least for now, isn't being brought in to be a starter or even a rotational CB who takes heavy reps on defense. Instead, his primary contributions will almost certainly come on special teams, where he has built a reputation over the years as a reliable gunner, tackler, and all-around utility piece. If fans are looking for splash plays, they might not find many from Hamilton on defense. but his presence could stabilize a special teams unit that often goes overlooked until something goes wrong. Washington has been dealt a rough hand with injuries this season, and the signing of Hamilton underscores just how critical depth is in today's NFL. Every team enters September with hopes of keeping its core intact, but the reality is that by October, most rosters are already drastically different than they were on opening day. That's where veterans like Hamilton come into play. He's not just a body to fill a roster spot. He's an experienced player who understands the grind, who can absorb the playbook quickly, and who can offer leadership in the locker room. Coaches love having players like that, guys who won't complain about limited roles, who won't shy away from dirty work, and who will step up if injuries force them into bigger responsibilities. There's also something to be said about Hamilton's perseverance as an example to younger players. For rookies like Trey Amos, who are just getting their feet wet in the league, Hamilton represents the reality that careers aren't always linear. Not everyone comes in as a first-round draft pick and gets handed a starting job. For many players, the NFL journey is about resilience, about making the most of every opportunity, and about understanding that value can be found in places other than the highlight reel. By simply being back in the building, Hamilton sends that message loud and clear. From a strategic standpoint, the Commanders are in an interesting position heading into Week 5 against the Chargers. Los Angeles boasts a dangerous passing attack, and while Hamilton might not see the field as a defensive back immediately, there's always the possibility that depth will be tested mid-game. Injuries happen fast, matchups change, and sometimes a player you didn't expect to see is suddenly lining up against a Pro Bowl wide receiver. If that moment comes, Washington is betting that Hamilton's decade of experience will allow him to hold his own. Even if it's only for a handful of snaps, those plays can make the difference between a win and a loss in a league where margins are razor thin. At the end of the day, this signing isn't about headlines or flashy stats. It's about survival, about shoring up a roster that has been battered and bruised through the first month of the season. Antonio Hamilton Sr. is the kind of player who represents the backbone of the NFL. Not a superstar, not a household name, but a reliable veteran who keeps the machine moving. For the Washington Commanders, his arrival is a reminder that in football, as in life, sometimes the most valuable pieces aren't the ones you notice immediately, but the ones who quietly do their job, week in and week out, making everyone else's job just a little bit easier. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. It's the kind of headline that makes you do a double take. The kind that, if you read it on April 1st, you'd laugh and move on, confident it was some cruel joke. But no, it's real. It's happening. CeeDee Lamb, the dynamic, explosive, game-changing wide receiver who has been the heart and soul of the Dallas Cowboys offense in recent years, has officially signed with the Washington Commanders. Yeah, you heard that right. CD is trading in his iconic star for the burgundy and gold of one of the Cowboys' oldest and most bitter rivals. It's not just a free agency move, it's a statement. It's a bombshell. And for many fans across the NFL landscape, especially in Dallas, it feels like betrayal. Let's be clear, this wasn't just any player moving teams. This isn't a depth piece sliding from one roster to another. This is the CeeDee Lamb, the guy who shattered expectations, carried the Cowboys through games they had no business winning, and consistently left defenders grasping at air. Over the past few seasons, Lamb has evolved into one of the top wide receivers in the league, a nightmare for secondaries, and a highlight machine every Sunday. His chemistry with Dak Prescott was undeniable. His ability to find space, to stretch the field, to turn a 5-yard slant into a 60-yard touchdown. It's the kind of talent that doesn't just help a team win. It defines an entire era. And now, he's gone. Worse yet, he's gone to the enemy. There's a weird electricity in the air when a player crosses that kind of divide. Cowboys to Commanders? That's not just changing uniforms. That's changing allegiances. That's shaking the very foundation of one of the NFL's most storied rivalries. And while the league has seen players cross enemy lines before, there's something particularly dramatic about this one. Lamb wasn't just a part of the Cowboys. He was the Cowboys, the face of the franchise's offensive resurgence, the go-to guy in crunch time, the one fans looked to when the game was on the line. And now, he's going to be the same guy, but wearing a Commanders jersey, gunning for his former team. The Commanders, for their part, couldn't be happier. This is a franchise that's been trying to claw its way back to relevance, to power, to respect. They've cycled through quarterbacks, coaching staffs, even owners. They've been mocked, dismissed, overshadowed. But not anymore. With CD Lamb in the building, everything changes. He's not just a weapon, he's a franchise changer. Pair him with a competent quarterback and a creative offensive coordinator, and suddenly Washington isn't just a team you overlook on the schedule. They become a problem, a real one. And let's not ignore what this means from a psychological standpoint. This is a gut punch to Dallas. The front office let it happen. Whether it was money, contract negotiations gone sour, or behind-the-scenes drama, the fact is they didn't lock him down. They let him walk. And the Commanders didn't hesitate. They swooped in, pulled the trigger, and now they hold one of the league's premier offensive talents. And, perhaps even more valuable, they've taken him directly from the Cowboys. This isn't just about football. This is about pride, about rivalry, about sending a message loud and clear. Washington isn't here to play second fiddle anymore. Behind the scenes, whispers are starting to circulate. There's talk that Lamb had grown frustrated with the Cowboys' leadership, or lack thereof, that he didn't feel prioritized, that he wanted a fresh start, a new challenge, and maybe even a little revenge. Can you blame him? For all his talent, all his production, the Cowboys never quite seemed to capitalize. Year after year, high hopes and playoff collapses. And CD, more often than not, was the lone bright spot in those dark January exits. Maybe he looked around and saw the writing on the wall. Maybe he decided he wasn't going to waste his prime years on a team that couldn't get over the hump. What's wild is imagining the first Cowboys-Commanders matchup with CD on the other side. That's going to be must-watch television. The energy in the stadium? Electric. The tension? Palpable. Cowboys fans won't know whether to boo, cry, or simply stare in stunned silence as the guy they once cheered for torches their secondary in a different uniform. And you just know he's going to bring that extra edge. He'll have that fire in his eyes. Every route, every catch, every touchdown. It's going to mean just a little bit more. Because this isn't just about playing football. This is personal. And don't be surprised if this sets off a ripple effect across the league. The NFC East has always been one of the most volatile divisions in football, where the top spot can change hands in a single week. But now, with Washington making moves like this, the balance of power could be shifting. Philly's watching. The Giants are watching. And most importantly, the Cowboys are watching and sweating. Because losing a talent like CD Lamb is one thing. Losing him to a divisional rival? That's another thing entirely. Already, analysts are scrambling to reevaluate Washington's offense. What does this mean for their scheme? For their quarterback? For their overall identity? One thing's for sure, this gives them legitimacy. And in a division where games are decided by inches, adding a playmaker like Lamb could be the difference between missing the playoffs and making a deep run. He opens up the entire field, forces defenses to account for him at all times. He changes coverages, draws double teams, creates opportunities for everyone else. That's the kind of impact you can't put a price on. Though, clearly, the Commanders were willing to pay it. As for Dallas, the fallout has just begun. Fans are angry, confused, hurt. Social media is a war zone. Jerseys are being burned. Questions are being asked, and rightfully so. How did the Cowboys let this happen? How do you let your best offensive weapon walk away, let alone to a rival? Was it arrogance? Incompetence? A refusal to adapt to the new financial realities of the NFL? Whatever the reason, the result is the same. Dallas just got weaker, and Washington just got a whole lot stronger. And yet, there's an eerie sense of déjà vu here. We've seen this movie before. A star player leaves, the team scrambles to replace him, and the fans are left to wonder what could have been. But this time, it feels different. More raw, more personal. Because this isn't just about losing a player. It's about losing an identity. CD Lamb wasn't just the best player on the Cowboys. He was the Cowboys for a generation of fans. And now, he's gearing up to take them down. So now, all eyes turn to the schedule. When do the Cowboys and Commanders meet? When will we see Lamb lining up across from Trayvon Diggs, staring down his former teammates with that trademark swagger? When will we see the man who once wore the star now trying to dismantle it piece by piece? That game, those games, will define the season. Maybe even the era. There's something poetic about it, too. A player seeking redemption. A team desperate for relevance. A rivalry renewed in blood, sweat, and betrayal. This is what the NFL is all about: drama, passion, stakes. And in the middle of it all stands CD Lamb, smiling, stretching, ready to explode down the field like he's done so many times before. Only now he's doing it for the Commanders. And the Cowboys? They'll be left to pick up the pieces, haunted by what they lost, and maybe, just maybe, finally, realizing that you don't let generational talent walk out the door. Not like this. Not to them. But it's too late now. The deal is done. The ink is dry. And CD Lamb is a Commander. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.